you ever notice when you go to close a sale that a lot of your prospects just don't seem to have much urgency to buy now and they just push it down the road? Well, if that's the case, come over here to the Vibe board. I'm going to show you why that's happening to you, and I'm going to give you about 7 different what we call probing questions that trigger the prospect to have far more urgency to buy now and not push it down the road. Come over to the Vibe board. I'm going to show you how to do this. All right, now I'm going to ask you this question. Type in me in the comments if you have some issues here and there. Just be honest with yourself. You have some issues when you go towards the end of the conversation or conversations, depending on if you sell B2C, business to consumer, or business to business. You try to close, but have you ever noticed that a lot of your prospects, they don't really feel a lot of urgency to want to buy from you? It's like you help them find problems, but then at the end, when you try to close, they just don't feel a lot of urgency. You can tell by their tonality, their body language, and they tell you they want to keep looking around, they want to think it over, they want to do more research. If that happens to you, type in me in the comments section. Okay, so if you're on Instagram or the Facebook group here, Sales Revolution, and you notice that a lot of your prospects, they just don't feel a lot of urgency when you try to close them to buy, even though they have problems, and then they give you some type of I want to think it over objection, type in me if that happens to you. Because if that happens to you today, I'm going to show you first of all why it's happening so you understand it, and then I'm going to show you what questions to use to get them to emotionally open up and relive their pain where it triggers massive urgency in their brain to want to change their situation and actually do that with you, the salesperson. Now, this is what we call NEPQ, write this down, precision probing. This is what's called NEPQ, precision probing. I'm going to give you a few examples here. Now, this is an example of what we call NEPQ problem awareness questions. Now, if you're not one of our clients, you might have no idea what NEPQ even means. NEPQ, write this down, this is important to you. NEPQ stands for neuro-emotional persuasion questions. Neuro-emotional persuasion questions, okay? It's my behavioral science background from university and then being in the trenches as a salesperson like you for 18 years in 4 completely different industries before I retired and started 7th level, okay? All right, now, why do we need to ask what are called problem awareness questions? Why do we need to precision probe? Why do we need to probe precisionally? Why do we need to do that? Because we have to help the prospect relive their pain of their current situation and have a fear of future pain, okay? Now, why is that, okay? Because we have to get them to tell themselves why they want to change. That is called self-persuasion. It is the highest form of persuasion according to behavioral science. When you tell a prospect why they need to buy from you, why they need to change, that goes in one ear out the other because you're biased. You're the salesperson. They know that. When I can take those statements and instead of telling them why they should buy, I get them to tell themselves why they should buy, which is more persuasive. I think you know the answer. When the prospect tells themselves why they need to change their situation, that's them. That's true. When you tell them, it's just your opinion because you're the salesperson, right? Now, write this down as well. I'm going to give you a behavioral science 101 lesson. What are the 2 biggest emotional drivers that cause a human being to want to change? The first one is what I said, pain and the fear of future pain. If we cannot help the prospect relive their pain of their current situation and have a fear of future pain, they don't feel any need to change. And when they don't feel any need to change, there is no urgency. That's why you get, I want to think it over, look around, do more research, or spouse objections if you sell B2C, okay? Because you couldn't help them open up emotionally to relive their pain and have a fear of future pain, okay? So I'm going to show you what questions and how to use your tone to get them to do that. Now, this also causes your prospects to go below the surface and emotionally open up, okay? Now, all of us have heard of this. Do human beings make buying decisions logically or emotionally? It's 100% emotionally. Brain studies prove that. There's no debate in science and behavioral science on this. 100% emotion. I feel like having a drink of water. Notice I said I feel like having a drink of water. Every decision you make, every decision that you make as a human being starts with your emotional side of your brain. No decision you make ever starts with your logical side of the brain. Did you know that? I feel like doing this live for you because I like you. I feel like waking up today because I have to get to work. I feel like eating today because I'm hungry. See, you always start with your emotional side of the brain and then you justify it with logic. That is the same if you sell B2B, B2C, door to door, B2G, it does not matter because you are talking to human beings who have the logical side of the brain and emotional side of the brain. There is no difference. Do you see see what I'm talking about there? Okay? Now, two biggest fears. Now, let me give you some examples of this. Okay? All right. How many of you type in me if you ever have a prospect that they tell you an emotion like, this problem is just frustrating me, or I'm really stressed out about this, or I'm just frustrated about this, or I'm worried about this, or I'm concerned about this. And they tell you, they attach like an emotional word to their problem. Type in me if you have a prospect that's ever told you their problem was stressing them out, or they were worried about it, or concerned about it, or frustrated about it, or annoyed about it. Okay? That is good. Now, when you get that emotional word, okay, all you can simply do if you want them to open up and expand on it. Because when a prospect says, yeah, I'm just stressed about XYZ, that is not helping them relive pain. That is still surface level logical stuff. It's what's causing that emotion that triggers them to relive their pain. So I'm simply going to repeat back the emotional word. Oh, this XYZ problem's caused us some stress. Stress? Frustration? Concern? See, I can repeat back the emotional word, okay? So I want you to go home and try it on the people you live with tonight. Could be your kids, your spouse, the person you're dating, the person that cuts your hair, whoever you talk to. Whenever they give you an emotional word like stress, concerned, pressure, tension, frustration, annoyed, just repeat back the one emotional word and watch how they emotionally open up and just spill the beans. Because here's what happens. When they say an emotional word and I just repeat it back, frustrated, and I use a confused tone, what happens in their subconscious, we cannot help it as a human being, their subconscious says, oh, he didn't understand what I meant by frustrated, I need to explain that better. Literally, their subconscious tells their conscious brain that, and instantly they start to open up. You will never have a prospect, if you say stress, that's just going to sit there and be like, yeah, stress. They're not going to do that, okay? But I have to use a concern, hold on, stress? That's a concerned tone, like I'm confused and I'm concerned. You see what I'm doing? Now, if I don't use a concerned tone or it's kind of like a confused / concerned tone. If I'm like, oh, what do you mean by stress? You're going to get some people to open up, but if I lean and say, oh, how do you mean by stress? See, I look confused and I look like I'm concerned. Their subconscious instantly says, he didn't understand what I meant by stress. I need to explain that better. And now they start reliving their pain. Do you see what we're talking about? Okay? All right, now, let me show you this. Hold on, stress? Yeah, just the other day it happened when, and then they tell you when it happened. And then I can instantly ask, this is called an NEPQ probing question here. Okay, this is a probing question. Remember, I have to get them to open up and go below the surface. That's where the emotion is. That's where the sale is made, okay? Then I'm going to say, how long has that actually been going on for? So you've been having XYZ problem. How long has that been going on for? Now, why do I ask that question? Because it helps the prospect realize how long they've had the problem, how long they've had the pain. Do you see what I'm doing there, okay? Now notice what my tone is doing. Okay, this is another probing question here. So this has been going on for the past 6 months. Has that had a impact on you? Oh my gosh, well, hold on. In what way though? Okay, see what I'm doing? I'm verbal pacing the question out. I'm slowing it down, okay? So instead of saying this is generic, I'm just going to plug in what the actual problem is. Are you with me on that? So that's been going on for the past 3 months. Has that had a impact on you? Oh my gosh. Well, in what way though? Okay, see what I'm doing, okay? You have no idea. Well, in what way? See, I'm still clarifying, I'm still probing to get the prospect to emotionally open and let their guard down. Let me show you a few other examples here, all right? Okay, now, in this example, and we would teach you this, that look, some of you are clients, some of you are not. The ones who are clients, you already know all this. That's why you were crushing it in sales in your industry. If you're not a client, well, what are you doing? Why wouldn't you be a client so you could sell more? It doesn't make any sense, okay? So if you notice by their tonality and body language that they're emotionally opening up to you, so throughout that conversation, let's say they've opened up, they've just emotionally opened up already, I might even lean in and be able to say, what's that doing to you? What's that doing to you? What happens when what does that do to you when that happens? See, I'm using a concerned tone, a tone that shows empathy, okay? Remember, your tonality is how the prospect interprets the intention behind every question you ask and everything you say. So if they feel like I'm genuinely concerned for this situation, that builds far more trust. And if the prospect trusts that you understand their unique situation, they also trust what? That you can get them the best result. That's who they buy from, not just because they like you. People buy from people or companies they trust can get them the best result. If they like you, that's a bonus. Think about all the people you like in your life, like relatives of yours. There's some things you don't buy from them that you buy from a complete stranger, right? Because you trust that other company or stranger can get you a better result than your relative. You like your relative, but it doesn't necessarily mean you trust them enough to get you the results you want. People buy from people they trust can get them the best result. If they like you, that's a bonus. People don't just buy because they like you or think you're a cool person. That's Dale Carnegie's book, 1936, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Great book, written in 1936. We live in 2024. Prospects are much differently. Power of the internet, social media didn't exist in 1936. It definitely impacts your sales now if you don't understand that, okay? All right, let's keep going here. Or I could do this. Prospect says, yeah, we're having some problems with X, Y, Z, and ABC. I then can say, can you give me a specific example of when that happened? Can you give me a specific example of when that happened? See, most salespeople would just stop. So when the prospect says, we're having problems with this and this, like, oh, okay, and then they just go on to the next question on their script. You have to probe. You have to get them to relive their pain. If you can't get them to relive their pain, they feel no need to change. And if the prospect feels no need to change, that's why they don't buy from you. They don't feel any urgency because you can't get them to relive their pain. Remember, pain, fear of future pain, biggest emotional drivers that causes a human being to want to change. See, we're all going back into that word change all the time. Can you give me a specific example when that's actually happened? See how I'm concerned there? Okay. Prospect. Well, just last week we had an issue with our system shutting down and our clients lost access to close to 2 days and we couldn't get a response from the company. I'm just making something up, okay? Then I'm going to probe it. Oh, how often is this happening to you guys? How often is that actually happening to you guys? Oh my gosh, it happens a couple times every couple of months. So when their systems go down like that, how does that affect your company? So when the system goes down, how is that affecting the company? They start to tell you how it's affecting their company, reliving that pain, but then I'm going to move in and say, how does that affect you personally though? Now, this is an example. This is more B2B here because you're talking about a company, okay? How does that affect you personally when that happens? See, I'm concerned. I'm using a concerned tone, a tone that shows empathy, okay? See what I'm doing there? Let me show you one more example here. Now, if you want to learn more questions like this and other questions for your industry, go ahead and click the subscribe button. My only warning to you is this. If you do subscribe to this channel, make sure you do not share this YouTube channel with people you know who you compete with. So if you have a friend that sells the same thing you do, you don't want to share them this channel because you don't want them to learn these type of things you're going to learn here, all right? So only share this with people that are in sales or other people selling anything if you're not competing with them. That's my warning to you. If you want to build far more urgency, you have to learn how to use what are called verbal pauses. I'm not kidding you when I say this. People say, Jeremy, I need to learn how to close more. I'm like, you need to learn how to use verbal cues, verbal pauses, and verbal pace your questions out so the prospect opens up emotionally, because that's when the sale's made, not when you use a option close at the end. That's not when the prospect decides to buy. Behavioral Science 101, okay? So in this example, I'm going to show you how to get your prospects to have certainty. Has anybody ever heard of that word certainty? Do you know what the number one reason is that your prospects give you objections? Uncertainty. What causes uncertainty in a prospect's brain? The salesperson does, not the prospect. What causes certainty in their brain? The salesperson, when they have a higher skill level. Okay? Certainty and uncertainty are triggered by you, the salesperson, not the prospect. I can control if that prospect has certainty with what I'm offering and the problems I solve and their problems. And on the flip side, if I don't have the right skills, how to use my tonality, the right questions to ask, I can also trigger uncertainty that leads to more objections. Okay, see what I'm doing there, okay? So let me give you an example of this. This is what's called an NEPQ. Write this down. This is called an NEPQ probing question right here. Probing question, okay? So I can control what I want the prospect to focus on in the question I ask. So think about that from your industry. Okay, this is generic here. So after they say something, I can say, so why is this so important to you now though? Why is this so important to you now? Now, what word am I keen on? The word this. So I'm asking, why is this so important to you now? Now look here at these dots. These are verbal pauses. I want to pause a split second before I say the word I want them to focus on in their brain, and I want a verbal pause for a split second before I finish the sentence. Okay, if I say this too fast, it will not have any... Yeah, why is this so important to you now though? Oh, I don't know, it's just something we're looking into. So why is this so important to you now? Can I ask why this is so important to you now though? Okay, the word this. See, now what did I just cause their brain to do? Focus on whatever this is. So let's say if I sold life insurance, as an example. That's the biggest industry we train in the world now. Why is this, that would mean financial protection for their family, so important to them now. If I sold solar, why is this, would be locking in the rate, lowering their bill, eventually not having a bill. If I sold, let's say, cybersecurity, the word this could be reducing their false positive rate so they stop rejecting good customers at the bank. See, it's all going to be different for the industry, but the word this gets them to focus on whatever you're... So why is this so important to you now, though? Now I got their brain to focus on whatever this is. Do you see what I'm doing here? Okay? Now, I can also focus on now as a timing thing. I can ask the same question. So look, this question right here is exactly the same as this question right here. But notice how I get their brain to focus on now, like today, timing, compared to this, whatever the issue is. Okay? And I'm asking the same question, but my tone and where I pause trigger their brain to think about different things. Do you see what we're talking about? So can I ask why this is so important to you now, though? Can I ask why this is so important to you now, though? Now, their brain is going to think, why is this so important to do now? The word now builds what? Urgency. Well, the reason why we need to look at doing this now is because, and they start telling you why they need to change their situation now. Okay, now, I'm pausing for a split second before the word now, and I'm pausing for a split second right at... Can I ask why this is so important to you now, though? Now, if I didn't pause, why is it so important to you now, though? Well, it just is. See, when I ask the question too fast, I give the prospect no time to internalize the question I'm asking. That is the number one reason when you ask questions that your prospects give you vague, generalized, surface level answers, is because you ask the question so fast, you give them no time to think deep about what you're asking, and that triggers a knee-jerk response, surface level, vague, generalized response. Okay, so if I'm selling at a car dealership or a furniture store and the prospect walks in and I say, hey, welcome to the store today, how can I help you? Just looking. You ask the question too fast, you're going to get a knee-jerk reaction. So I might say, hey, welcome into the store today. Are you guys just kind of, out just kind of looking around today? Yeah, we're just looking. Oh, and you know what you're possibly looking for? Okay, I'm slowing down. I'm verbal pacing the question out. Does that help all of you today? All right, perfect. All right, now type in the chat here what you got here, biggest aha moment. I'm going to end it with this. Okay, so type in the chat, biggest aha moment, something you picked up from that basic live that you did not know before the live today. Okay, I want you to type in the chat, biggest aha moment, something you picked up today that you did not know before today. Okay, hope that helped you today learn how to build more urgency in the sale. That was just kind of a sample. If you want more training like this, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. My only warning is, like I said earlier, don't share this channel with your competitor. So if you have a friend that sells the same thing you do and you don't want them to learn these type of things, don't share it with them. Only share it with friends who are outside of your industry who you don't compete with. I can assure you, you don't want your competitors learning the things I will show you on these training videos.